So we're up to the Gemara now on the top of Mem Aleph Amud Beis. We learned in the Mishnah that a Yevamot has to wait a minimum of 3 months before Chalitza and Yibum. Bishleim Lotus Yabim, that I understand. Shema Yevlad Ben Kayom, she may get pregnant, or she may be pregnant, and she'll give birth to a Vlad Shel Kayom, V'kapaga Be'Iser Eishes Ach Ba'oraisa. If the late Reuven had left a child, then there's no Yibum, and therefore his wife Rachel is in fact an Eishes Ach on Shimon. How could we allow Shimon to have a Be'ila relationship with Eishes Reuven, who's Eishes Achiv, if there's possibility that there's no mitzvah, because perhaps she, Rachel, was left pregnant from the late Reuven, and she gave birth to a Vlad ben Kayoma. Ella, lo tachlo tamai, what do we lose by insisting on chalitza? Just why did the Mishnah say that, because of this problem of maybe she got pregnant from her late husband, and therefore she doesn't fall for Yibum? Okay, so she doesn't fall for Yibum. Okay, so she had chalitza. Bosses. So lema tiavi tuvti to Rabbi Yochanan derma chalitas muberet shma chalitza. Now, if on the tzad that she in fact did not become pregnant from her late husband, or alternatively, even if she did become pregnant but she didn't carry a vlad shel kayom, and therefore she falls for yibum. So Rabbi Yochanan says that we validate the yibum, the chalitza, that took place with the muberes. So once again, we come back to our square one question: why not chalitza? The lav ni osivne the Rabbi Yochanan zimna. We've already raised an objection against Rabbi Yochanan back on Daf Lamed Vav. So why would the Mishnah now all of a sudden reflect a kash on Rabbi Yochanan? In other words, Ma'naf Gemina, if this Mishnah is like Rabbi Yochanan, not like Rabbi Yochanan, and you're bothered by the fact that it seems that this Mishnah is against Rabbi Yochanan, we already upshlugged Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara answers, Lema meha nami te'avituvt. The Gemara is now suggesting the following, that we're not trying to clarify, is there a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan? Is there not? We already had a kasha pircha on Rabbi Yochanan, but maybe we could also add fuel to the flame and have a tiyuvta against Rabbi Yochanan from this Mishnah. And if you'll find an answer to the first question and the objection and the steer against Rabbi Yochanan, you'll have this one to deal with the contender. One says, lo, there's no kasha from our Mishnah on Rabbi Yochanan. Hacha, when they said over here that she doesn't get chalitza toch shlosha chadoshim, hainu taima, shema yehevlad ben kayoma, maybe in fact she'll have a viable child from her first, her late husband. And what's so bad about the chalitza? We're going to have to notify the Kohanim with a public declaration, get out the foghorns on the rooftops, that this woman is allowed to marry a Kohen. Meaning that this chalitza does not disqualify her like a get or a normal chalitza, because it's not a valid chalitza. She could still marry a Kohen. So the Gemara says, V'nitzarcha. So what's the big deal? All right, we'll send around the word, and hopefully the Kohen will get the message, and there'll be a line out the door of suitors, of Kohanim, who want to marry this woman. So what? So you made the extra effort, you went the extra mile to notify the Kohanim. And the Gemara says, Dilma ikat havi b'chalitza v'lo havi b'achroza. There may be a group of spectators who were present at the time of the chalitza. They didn't hear the achroza. And when they see the chalitza, their absolute conclusion is going to be that nifsalua min hakahuna. she is disqualified from Guna. They didn't hear the announcement that she's allowed to marry a Kohen. And now if she goes ahead and marries a Kohen, and they believe that she's a chalutza because they were there and witnessed the chalitza, they're going to walk out with the impression that the Rabbanon are being matir a chalutza to kahuna. We can't afford that luxury. That's a dangerous situation. The Gemara says, wait a minute. Tenach almona grusha ma'ikalamim. In the case of almona, I understand why she shouldn't have chalitza within 3 months, because she's really kshera l'kahuna. And they're going to say that someone who's psul l'kahuna is marrying a Kohen. But grusha, she's not going to be able to marry a Kohen. Why are you prohibiting chalitza in the case of a grusha? And the Gemara answers, Mishum de mafsid la mizonos. Or it comes up with another element, another angle. The reason why a grusha, and a Yevamot who's a grusha min asuid from some other marriage should not have chalitza, because for the first 3 months after the death of her husband, again, she had been married previously and divorced, but from the almana, from the death of this husband, during that first 3-month period, she collects mizonos, support, from the estate of her husband. And now, if there's going to be chalitza in the presence of a bezdin within the 3 months, then after the chalitza, she can no longer be supported by the estate of the deceased. And afli odom acher asur li nosei kol shlosha chadoshim. She's going to be stuck between a rock and a hard place, what we call kerech mikan mikan. She cannot collect after the chalitza mizonos from the estate of her late husband. Meanwhile, she can't marry another man until 3 months go by, and she's stuck without mizonos. The Gemara says, Tenach Nesua. That's true if her original marriage was a full-fledged marriage with Nesuin, from which she was divorced. We can understand and justify why we don't want chalitza until after 3 months pass by. We don't want her to be mafsid, to lose her mizonos. But arusa grusha, what happened if in a previous marriage she was an arusa and then she was divorced? Why should we say that there's no chalitza toch shlosha chadoshim? She's not losing any mizonos. Arusa doesn't get mizonos from the estate of her husband. Ella says the Gemara, Mishum de Rabbi Yossi. The reason why we prohibit chalitza toch shlosha chadoshim is because of the drasha of Rabbi Yossi, that anyone who's ola liyibum is ola lechalitza. Kocha ain't ola liyibum, ain't ola chalitza. Only if she is roy liyibum can she implement chalitza. But this woman is not ola liyibum toch shlosha chadash. We will not allow yibum toch shlosha. So there, right, for the reason of maybe she's pregnant and so forth and so on. And therefore she's not ola chalitza according to Rabbi Yossi. And that's why it says lo tachlis. The man says to Rabbi Yossi, Ma'u lachlotz toch shlosh. Should there be chalitza for the Yevamot within 3 months of the death of her husband, meaning my brother? Amar lo, Rabbi Yossi says to him, lo tachlotz v'tachlotz. Well, what are you saying? Rabbi Yossi saying lo tachlotz. So the man counters. He says, why shouldn't there be chalitza? Kara Olav, Rabbi Yossi had his famous drush, because Im lo yachbot, the Torah says Im lo yachbot, so each lokach sivim kebel sivim kachara v'chol tzenar miad raglov. Here's the drasha. that since he doesn't want to be miyabim, therefore he's chofetz, yabim. If he really wants to be miyabim, let him go ahead and be miyabim. And the case is, the Torah is addressing the situation scenario in which he can be miyabim. He doesn't want to be miyabim, but he had that option. He decided to opt for chalitza. Kol sha'ola liyibum ola l'chalitza. Only someone who's roy liyibum is roy l'chalitza. And then it's up to him. He decides whether he wants to do yibum or chalitza. But if he's not ola liyibum, he's not ola l'chalitza. Now you're telling me, asks Reb Chinan, that this is the logic here to prohibit chalitza? Must Reb Chinan? We have a brisa that says asfikos choltzos v'lo mitziyamos. There are many cases of a woman who is in a suffix whether she needs yibum or not, and will opt for chalitza. So you see that there's chalitza without yibum. My sfekos. Well, what kind of sfekos are we dealing with? Ilay masafik kiddushin. If we're not sure if the original marriage to the late brother was a valid marriage, let's say, for example, he threw kiddushin, and it fell safek karav lo, so we don't know if the kiddushin to his brother was valid or not, and therefore whether she needs yibum or not. Is a ma'lo misyabos. Tisyabim v'ein bekach klum. We have a miman of shakir that would lead us to the clear-cut conclusion that she should have yibum, or she can have yibum. If his late brother was makadesh kedushin, that was valid, it was karav law, then for sure she needs yibum. He died without any children, and we certainly should advocate yibum. But if the kedusha was not valid, then she's muteres l'shuk. Anyone can marry her. She doesn't need yibum. Hillel says the Gemara, by process of elimination, we have to assume lav that this suffix was like a case of kidesh achiv achas mishtei achdos v'eni yudezim and kidesh. He doesn't remember which of the two sisters he was makadesh. Maybe they're twins, identical twins. Anyway, he died, and we don't know which one of these two sisters needs yibum. So the halacha is that they both require chalitza misafek. There's no yibum possibly, because as far as each one of them, she might be asur ala yibum, so we have a suffix. But on the other hand, maybe each one is achosa, so it's kachas kukalo. So therefore, if this one might be achos kukosa, the other one might fall for yibum, or the other way around. It's ktani choletzes. Here's another situation in which there is chalitza. There's no possibility of yibum. What kind of analogy is that? Safek achos kukoso doesn't need to wait. That's like a Yevamot who waits 3 months, but Hassam, in the case of Safek achos kukoso, she's ola l'yibum. The Yovo Elio, it's a suffix we don't know, but if Elio would come around, the Omar, the Ha Kiddush, this was the one of the two sisters that he was Makadesh, then Maschalith of Yibum. There would be no Chisaron in the din of Yibum. But Hacha here in the case, within 3 months, even if Elio and Novi would have come, Yovo Elio V'Yomar, and it'll declare the Ha Lo Yabra, she's not pregnant. Are we going to allow Yibum based on the testimony of Elio and Novi that she's not pregnant from her late husband? Are we going to be matter of the Yibum? For sure, we're not going to listen to this. Rabbana made a takon. They required hamtana shlosha chadosh, and that's an absolute takona, unqualified. You know for sure. You took an X-ray, and you know for sure that she's not pregnant. You gave her an ultrasound. Elio and Novi came to testify that she's not pregnant. Rabbanan made a takana that you need 3 months. is therefore she's not Oli Yibum. And Kol She'ena Oli Yibum, Ena Ola Chalisa of Yossi's principle. So therefore they made a takana that she shouldn't have Chalisa Tok Shlosha Chadashim. And the Gemara now proves this. The Ketana, let's assume a Ketana fell for Yibum, the Labasi Burehi, Bafilu Hachi Tzrichel Hamtin Tosha Chadashim. A Ketana doesn't become pregnant, period. That's the Talmudic premise, the axiom. And yet, if this Ketana, who couldn't possibly be pregnant, fell for Yibum, then the halacha would be that she has to wait 3 months. We're not going to say, oh, she couldn't have become pregnant. There's no nidatana. We're not going to apply the principle of Shalosh Chadosh. Tana Rabbana, we learned in the Brisa, Yevamot, a Yevamot who fell for Yibum, Shlosha Chadosh Rishonim, the first 3 months after the death of her husband, she's not allowed to get married. Is Nizones Mishal Baal. The Baal, the late husband, wrote to her in Ksuba that as long as you don't get remarried and you sit, as a widow in the house, you'll eat from my possessions. It's on the house. After 3 months, Eino Nizones Lo Mishal Baal Lo Mishal Yevamot. In other words, even though he wrote to her that she will be supported from his nechasim as long as she remains an almana until she gets remarried, nevertheless, this case is not like other almanos. How is this different than other almanos? Sheheina meina nesuas yomos nei covered bailam ames nizonis minachasa. She makes a statement. In honor of my late husband, I'm not going to get remarried so much. It's covered by. So for that, quid pro quo, will let her be supported from his estate. But this woman, she doesn't get supported from his estate. Because Keva and Shemasha Einon Nises, who Keva and Shura Vaguda Biyavam, is velo machmasa. Is af min hayavam ein nizonos ad shetikanis lechuppah. So she's not going to be supported from his estate because you know why she's not getting remarried? It's because she's still connected to the yavam. So again, getting back to the beginning of this price, so we don't lose the forest for the trees. During the 3 months following the death of her husband, she has rights to eat and be supported by the estate of her late husband. So that's called Gimel Chadoshim Nizones Mishal Ba. But Mikan V'elach, she hasn't gotten remarried yet, and yet Eid Nizones Lo Mishal Ba Lo Mishal Yom. Okay, it's Lo Mishal Yom, I understand, but why not Mishal Ba? The Baal wrote her a ksuba that she will be supported from his nechasim as long as she's an almana until she gets remarried. And we're going to have to say that our case is different than all the case of an almana, stam almanas. because until the almana gets remarried, she has a right to say, I'm withholding marriage. I'm not going to pursue marriage because of the covet of my Baal that died. So therefore, we understand that she eats from. But what about this case? Why isn't she getting married? It's because of Kshura Vaguda B'Yavam. Like the Torah established the Zika Sibum and Losia Ish Samei Sachutz Lishzar, she's not let her marry anyone else. So at what point will she eat and be supported by the Yavam? That's after she'll enter into the chuppah. Amad Bidin, the Yavam was Tovea, the Yavama in a Bezdin, that either will go through with Yibum or with Chalitzu Bara. And then the Yavam flew the coop. So we're going to punish him. We're going to penalize him. Benizonis Mishal Yavam, and she can now use his properties in his absence. He's out in the 7 seas for support, for self-support. Now, what happens in a case where she falls in front of a Yavam who's a Katan? Naflu Lifnei Yavam Katan. My. Mi Yavam Leslie. For sure, she cannot eat or be supported from the Yavam. I mean, you can't blame him for not being miyabim. I mean, he's honest. He's not worthy of a knas. Mibal mai. Can she be supported from the estate of her husband? And the reason for that is because she's not going to be supported from the Yavam based on Zika Sibu. So let's make a takana that she should at least be supported from Nichsei Abal. Or should we say no? No woman who's a Shomer Yavam, Toch Shlosha Chadoshim, has the right to be demanding of Mizonos. Kol Yavam, she'enin Mizonos mean Nichsei Abal. But after the 3 months, she doesn't collect minichsei abal. So from the Yavam, she certainly doesn't have rights to collect mizonos. He's honest. I mean, he can't be miyabim. So he's not worthy of a penalty. But the Gemara has a doubt and vacillates about nichsei baal mai. Can she at least be supported from the nechasim of the baal? And the reason for that is because she doesn't get mizonos as a result of the zikas hayavam. That we said over and over again, the yavam is not responsible for her mizonos. So maybe they made a takana to Chazal that at least she should be supported from nichsei abal. Should we say no? But Yevamot doesn't get supported from nichsei abal after 3 months. So even though she has not gotten remarried yet, she could still perhaps, that's the Gemara's vacillating, collect her support minichsei abal. And Dr. Joel, I'll be with you in just 1 minute. I just want to finish one thing. So hang in there if you can. Is pligi bar of Achav Ravina. The Gemara records machlokas between 2 Amoraim. Chad Omer Isla. They made a takana that she should be able to be supported from the estate of her Baal. V'chad omer lesla. She doesn't have rights to be supported from the Nixei Baal. V'hilkish lesla. And the final psak is that she's not supported neither from Nixei Baal nor from Nixei Yevamot. And the reason is Mishmaya Kansua. What does that mean, Mishmaya Kansua? Min Baal. She doesn't get nechosim from a Baal because it's already after the 3 months. The takana was only for the first 3 months after his death. And as far as the Yomi is concerned, she doesn't get support from him because he didn't write her a ksuba and accept upon himself obligations to support her. It was min hashamayim that she would fall for him for Yibum. And he's a katan. So in this particular scenario, she's mafsid and she's not makabelis mizonos. Then we have the brisa here at the end of Mem Aleph Amud Beit. We'll pick up Mirza Shem in the next sheet.